All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the So Weird Podcast, episode 10. Unfortunately, Zach couldn't make it this time, but I am Kat.
I'm Kathy.
And I'm Emily.
And today we are talking about So Weird, season 1, episode 10, Tulpa. This one is one of my all-time favorites because it's one that I can actually remember watching for the first time as a little kid. In this episode, the Phillips tour bus is parked at a park, of all places, and we open up with Jack, Fee, and Clue playing a game of basketball. The guys don't really want Fee to play, so Fee meets this kid named James, invites him to play. He's reluctant. He doesn't want to play with them, and as it turns out, the reason why he doesn't want to make friends with Fee is because he has an imaginary friend. At first, thinks that this imaginary friend is psychokinesis, that it's just being able to move things around with his mind, but it turns out that he has this imaginary friend with powers who gets Fee into trouble. We get to see Big Brother Jack, and it's a lovely, lovely little episode.
Yeah, watching it again, or recently, I did actually understand why people get scared of this one, because before, whenever I would watch it, it wasn't scary to me at all, but just seeing it and how the Tulpa would react to some things, like the scene that got to me the most was when James was in the bus, and I think he was trying to leave the bus, but the Tulpa shut the window quickly, and that's just scary. Like, just think about an invisible demon basically following you around and hurting people around you.
It's a. Well, I was just going to say it's a very physical monster, and it kind of creeps me out. The red mark that it leaves on Fee's arm is a little disturbing. I'm surprised they got away with that.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
It
looked like Fee was a victim of domestic abuse.
Exactly.
The part that always got to me, though, was the scene at the end where Fee is trying to convince James that he has control over the Tulpa. The Tulpa doesn't have to control his life. And as Fee tells James that he can get rid of it forever, the Tulpa doesn't like that. So they're by a swing set, and the chain of the swing set unravels itself and then wraps around Fee's ankle and drags her towards it. I always thought that was terrifying, because every kid likes swing sets, and for me to be afraid of a swing set, I was like, whoa, this thing can kill me.
Yeah, it was some good acting on Kara's part to make it seem really scary when, in fact, she was moving pretty slowly through the land.
When I watch it now, she's it's getting pulled very, very slowly. She could easily get up.
Yeah, and you gotta love those special effects.
Yeah, all the flashes, though.
Yeah, that's the thing I would say, is that it's not an episode I enjoy watching very much because of the flashes. I think they're totally unnecessary and a little over the top.
I think it was probably a good special effect for the time, but now watching it, it seems so outdated and cheesy.
Yeah, but it's back then, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, back then, 1999.
So, about James, I know some people are okay with him, but some people really, really don't like him.
How can you not like James? I mean, sure, he comes off as a little bit of a jerk. He throws Fee's basketball into the middle of the street. Okay, yeah, now I can see why you don't like James.
Yeah, he was really, really rude in the beginning. Kind of mostly through the episode, almost until about the end, where we actually see why he's rude. And how, I'm guessing it's just a front, it's a front to keep others away so he can't hurt them.
Yeah, that's something
still, in the beginning, he's pretty rude.
Yeah, he was very rude in the beginning, but I was really touched by his story just because James lives with his grandmother in a foster home because his grandmother wasn't able to take care of him anymore. So he didn't have any friends of his own, so he grew up in this foster home, and that's how his Tulpa got created. He felt like he needed a big brother, best friend type of character to protect him, and then his imaginary friend just got too powerful. And at the end, once Fee reached out to him and taught him that he could control it, that it wasn't all bad, you could see that he was a sweet kid inside. It was just a front.
So, hold on. Does James live with his grandma now?
No, I think he had said before my grandma took me in.
Oh. So he
He
was
grew up
in
in
foster
foster
care?
homes, and then his grandma took him in.
Oh, okay. I'm
But
glad he got that.
yeah, but then it doesn't actually say if he's still living with his grandma, and I've always wondered that because we see him hiding out under the playground,
Yeah.
and it's like he has
Yeah.
his stuff there. So does he actually live with his grandma, or is he actually homeless?
Hmm. I don't know. I was just assuming that he was with his grandma, but he just went out a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
he's
don't.
trying to protect his grandma from the Tulpa. I don't know.
That's a good thing to think about.
Yeah, and so that always, thinking about that, it kind of, if he really was homeless and he never actually said, "Oh, I do live with my grandma," it kind of troubles me that at the end of the episode, the Phillips family doesn't investigate anymore, because I'm sitting here like, what is this kid doing hanging out in the playground all the time with his stuff underneath the slide?
Well, he has his backpack with him, so I always assumed that that was like his hangout spot after school, and that he'd just hang out in the park until dark when he had to go home.
Yeah, possibly.
That way he could spend as much time away from everybody else, just him and his Tulpa.
Yeah, he definitely
Yeah,
is a loner.
Yeah.
and
Just not so sweet that Fee reaches out.
yeah, and there's that line that he tells Molly how my mom had a pretty voice too, and then that just gets me because then Molly,
Yeah.
her reaction, like he's dealing with the loss of a parent also, or parents, I'm not sure,
Yeah.
and that's another kid who has a deceased parent. There's lots of those in the series.
Yeah, just like with all Disney series, there's always parents. And it's so weird we have a few more.
Hmm.
So moving on from James, another interesting character plot is between Jack and Fee in this episode.
Yeah, well, throughout the episode, I'm pretty much on Jack's side because from Jack's perspective, James is just incredibly rude. Being around him gets people hurt, especially Fee. She gets hurt like 2 times being around him. Yet Fee just consistently keeps wanting to meet with him, and Jack just can't understand why, which is understandable.
Yeah,
So,
Jack's in total Big Brother mode in this episode, and I love it.
yeah. And he says that line, is it so hard to let me look after you now and then? Why can't you trust me?
Yeah, and then Fee kind of throws it right back in the face about, oh, I know this kid's not that bad. Why can't you just trust me?
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah,
their dynamic here
Yeah.
is really sweet.
and it's more mature. I feel like they come to an understanding at the end of the episode. But yeah, the line from Jack about it being, "Is it so hard to let me look after you every now and then?" That always felt like Jack the Knight was coming out. Like,
Yes.
this is my job. This is my destiny.
And then
Let me
also
help
at
you.
the end of the episode too, in that scene that terrified me as a kid, where the swing set wraps around Fee's ankle, there's a tree branch that's about to fall on her, and Jack runs over and pushes her out of the way and saves her. So Jack was her savior, her knight once again.
Yeah, and then there's a scene with Jack and Molly where I think Molly wants to go look for Fee 'cause she ran off again, but Jack's like, it's okay, I got it under control, you have something to do. And so Jack's always there for Molly too, He's like
Yes.
the man of the house or of the bus.
I remember years ago on my original YouTube channel, this was about 10 years ago now, in 2006, 2007. I wish I could remember the song, but there was this music video I did for Jack, all about the theme about how he's always the one going after Fee, taking responsibility for Molly and for Fee's well-being. While they're busy dealing with their personal problems, Jack is always putting himself on the line to take care of everybody. And that's something I really admire about him.
Definitely true.
And then he has a scene with Ned, which is a really cool scene, where Jack's trying to tell Ned, like, oh, I can't believe that Fee's going after this guy again. And Ned's like, oh, what, it's her hunch against your hunch? And then Ned goes on describing himself, how he was back then, like in the Harley Davidson biker club or whatever, with long hair and all that. And he's like, what would your hunch be about me back then?
I love that scene because it makes Jack laughs about it for a minute, and then he thinks, wait, this is true. And you get to hear a little bit more about Ned's backstory about how he used to be so wild, which seems like it matches the way he looks. But
Yeah.
you always see Ned as such a gentle person. He's like a giant teddy bear. Like in this episode, he's chilling out on the couch listening to classical
Mozart.
music, eating a carrot. It's not what you think of a biker. So I love to hear that backstory about Ned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's a good scene. Just like, don't judge too quickly. Even though I do agree with Jack on how he was judging James, because he didn't show any compassion.
Yeah.
But
also, something that bothers me is I'm not sure how many people picked up on this, but in the season 1, episode 2 website, there's an email from Jack's weird friend named Biker Mike, and we've never found out who Biker Mike is. But that scene with Ned talking about his biker past, telling Jack, "Oh, what would you have thought about me?" Apparently, Jack has a biker friend. I don't know if he's really riding like a Harley Davidson or just like a bicycle, and maybe he aspires to be a biker. But somewhere in the So Weird universe, there is a guy who calls himself Biker Mike, and I would really love to know his backstory.
Yeah, there's a lot of unknown characters that email them, like Hacker Dude.
Speaking of emails, there's a shot of Fee talking to Gabe in this episode that I don't think I'd ever really noticed before. And we learned that Gabe says she's feeling better if you pay attention. So that's nice. It's a nice little bit of continuity.
Yeah. I love pausing the episodes just to see the little tidbits that you find. Every detail is so well thought out in the series.
It is.
That's actually, I just remember, that's the scene where Fee teaches Molly about chat rooms.
Yeah. He's teaching her lingo, like parties and all that.
She's like, why am I so old or something?
I know.
Yeah. How can you have a party on a computer?
It's hilarious looking back at it now, but I guess back in the day I was like, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, so about Fee, you know how I keep saying like how I'm on Jack's side in the beginning, and Fee's just so consistent about James and trying to reach out to him. It's because when the basketball went in the street, she went to go get it. There was a car that almost hit her, but the Tulpa, or James Tulpa, pulled her out of the way, and she knows that she got pulled by something. Well, she was thinking it was James PK, so she knows that he saved her. He's good deep down. So yeah, that's her reasoning why he's trying to reach out. She's trying to reach out to him.
I think this is one of the first, I don't know how often it happens, but one of the first moments that Fee comes to the wrong conclusion about what's going on. And it's really interesting and I guess refreshing to see. You don't want the main character to be right all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but the thing that bugs me a little bit, and it can be a character flaw, I'm cool with it, is when James tries to explain to her what's happening, she's like, she blows him off.
I feel like we've seen this quality in Fee before in the episode Escape, when she's too busy talking Claire's ear off that Claire just falls asleep to go out of her body, that she doesn't really listen to Claire when she's trying to tell her why she does it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she gets so caught up in her own thinking that she accidentally overlooks the problem at hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly. I don't think it's a character flaw at all. I think it's just she doesn't know anything about tulpas, so she kind of fits what's happening into her little, knowledge box and says, "Oh, it must be PK because that's something I think it's PK because that's something I know about."
Mm-hmm.
But she doesn't go out and do any more research until finally it hits her. Literally, I guess. Something else could be going on.
Yeah, that scene also just bugged me a little bit because she kept saying "No, you're wrong."
Kind of like a doctor not listening to their patient. "No, I know what's wrong with you better than you do." But I'm really glad you brought that up because I think that adds to the realism of this show so much. Like, these characters aren't like caricatures like you see on most TV shows. They feel like real, authentic people.
Yes, and actually that ties into another point I wanted to make about this episode, and the show at large is, we see Fee in this episode playing basketball. But, we would never say that Fee is a tomboy. She doesn't fit into that stereotype. She just enjoys playing basketball with her friends and her family. So I agree with you that the characters are well developed. They aren't caricatures. They have, and Fee in particular has varied interests, but it's not treated as something that makes her special. The fact that she enjoys all these different things. We see her getting into makeup and boy bands and also playing basketball on the side. So that's something I've always appreciated about her.
So she'll play basketball, but not baseball.
Well, wait, never mind. We'll talk about that on the episode.
Yeah, come back next Singularity.
Yeah, in that basketball scene, when James finally decides to play, Jack says okay, James, you're with me, and I forgot what James says back, but he's saying oh, why? And Jack says, well, it's because you two are smaller. And I like that. It's a fair reasoning. They didn't make a joke about it or anything like that.
Yeah, and it's not that thoughtful.
Yeah, and it's not that Fee's a girl either.
Yeah,
not brought up.
Yeah, and then also I really liked how they didn't capitalize on Clue's height like they could have. The stereotype is that tall people are good at basketball. But you can see Clue struggling a little bit, and when Fee asks them if they could play 2-on-1, Clue says no.
Yeah, basically So Weird is awesome.
Yes. And also talking about Clue, we get some Clue and Fiona scene time, which I've always thought that Fee and Clue should have had a relationship beyond friends. And looking back, it's hard to justify that now because of how little screen time they actually got together.
Yeah. Wait, what was their screen time in this episode?
Playing
Chinese checkers.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a nice little scene. It's another nice snapshot into life on the road too.
Yeah.
Yeah, about Fee and Clue, if I were to think about ships on the show, I think that's one of the ones that I actually liked. But I know that we all like how they didn't capitalize on Fee and relationships in the show, so I do like that they didn't make her and Clue together. But if I were to just think about it, that would be cool. I know some people don't like that because Clue lives with them, so some people see Clue as Fee's other big brother.
I never thought of it like that. But that's a good point.
And isn't Clue 3 years older than Fee? I don't know, but
yeah, because Jack's 2 years older than Fee.
But I guess when I was younger, I did kind of see something between them. Not romance, but they had a connection.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm kind of torn about it too because I know we'll get into this I guess someday, but that was a possibility at some point that was discussed between the writers of Fee and Clue getting together. Or there being a payoff, I guess, for their connection and chemistry and all that. But you're right, yeah. I also kind of wish that Fee had never ended up with anyone at the same time. To show that her relationships aren't that important in the end.
Yeah, me too. And I just think it's interesting because I saw that as a child, but looking back on the episodes now, they don't get much screen time together. So I'm wondering, what is it that I picked up on when I was younger?
I mean, I'm guessing because he compared to Jack, he's willing to listen to Fee more.
Yeah, that's true.
That's probably it.
Plus, it's Eric Von Detten, and most of us had crushes on him back then.
Yeah,
I think.
Very true. Which is another thing I love about So Weird, that it never capitalizes on Eric Von Detten's looks or popularity. Even when he came back in season 3, he was never used as a heartthrob character, and I really admire that about the show's writers.
Same.
All right, so we've talked about Fee, we've talked about Jack, we've talked about Clue. Now, we talked about Ned. How about we talk about Molly?
Molly in this episode? Well, I guess it's a few times where I don't think Molly is, that great at being a mom, but just because she lets them out so much, like traveling the city and they're so young, and I just think like I can never ever do that at that age. But Fee just came back from like the hospital or something, and I don't know, she still lets her, well, no, she makes her stay inside, but Fee escapes, but I don't know, Molly's not that mad about it.
Well, she was pretty mad. She made that threat like, oh, I should get an electronic bracelet for that child. But something also interesting going on with Molly in this episode is that she is writing a new song at the end of the episode. And we only hear a few chords of it, but that song goes on to be She Sells.
Yeah, and then we hear Jack say, or Molly say that it's the revenge of her time when she wrote jingles.
Yeah. So I always thought it was such a sweet little scene at the end to see Molly teach Jack and Fee how to play the song that she wrote.
Yeah, and you see the musical side of all the Phillips family members coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fond of it too.
It's such a cute Phillips family moment.
Mm-hmm. Plus, Fee's rocking the pigtail buns again.
Yes, I love that hairstyle on her.
She had the long pigtails throughout, and then those short pigtail buns. Oh, so 90s.
Yeah. My hair was too short then and too thick. I could never pull off the pigtail buns, but I always wanted to.
I'm trying to think of anything else about this episode we haven't discussed. There's a scene that Molly... Well, it's the last scene of the episode, actually. Molly is talking to Fee, and Fee saying how... No, Molly says, oh, you have interesting friends. And Fee says, well, I guess I'm lucky that way. And then Molly says, oh, kind of.
Yeah, it was just, I really didn't pay attention to it much until the last, or, just the other day when I was rewatching it. It's almost like Molly is aware of Fee's fate and that, she draws the paranormal towards her. Well, not like lightning rod, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. And how, that's not always a good thing, so Molly wouldn't really consider her lucky. But something like that.
And then Molly also tells Fee something like, if you ever have a daughter, I hope she's just like you. And when Emily mentioned that earlier, my first thought was, oh, what a beautiful chance that would give us for a Girl Meets World style revival.
I know.
Oh, man.
I always think about that. Like, a reboot can be Fee when she's older and she has her child, and it's just a continuation like Rick, and then Fee into the paranormal, and then the new child.
Yeah.
Guys, I think we're going to have a whole episode devoted to ideas for, like, reboots and revamps and stuff for this show, because I have a bunch of them.
Oh, yeah, me too. Actually, I checked my old email address, and I got a review or, like, a favorite on a fan fiction for original season 3 that I wrote when I was, like, 13.
No, really?
Yeah. One day I need to go back and finish it.
What did they say?
I don't remember. I didn't read the whole thing. I just saw that somebody left, there was a review and a favorite for it. And at first I couldn't remember what it was. And then I was like, oh, that's that So Weird story I wrote years ago.
Also, I wanted to bring up, in the end, Jack tells James, like, oh, that email Fee gave you, it's the same for me, or you can contact me through that. And I always thought it was odd that they share an email. Like, I don't know if that was the type of network thing that they had, and they can only have one email, or I don't know. Why didn't Jack have an email?
I don't know. It was like everybody just used Fee's email. Like, even in season 2 Avatar, Carrie was using Fee's email to get in touch with Tammy.
Oh, yeah.
Like, maybe the internet was considered so new at that time that Fee was the only one geeky enough to regularly use it.
Possibly, yeah.
Okay, so they get their email through Earthlink, is that right?
Yeah, earthlink.net or .net or something.
Is that like an internet provider? Because I remember when I was younger, we had I think we could only get one email account through our internet provider. And for some reason, I don't know if it was like the general consensus or the feeling or just for my parents, but there was this idea that getting an email through an internet provider was maybe more secure than getting it through like Hotmail or Yahoo or one of those websites. So maybe that's why. I don't know.
I always thought Earthsend was a fictional one, like star.star, just to like avoid copyright issues or something.
Oh yeah, I don't think it was real,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying maybe that, I don't know. That's the only excuse I could come up for them sharing emails.
Yeah, because in those days we had AOL, and everybody had an email address except for my mom, because my mom wanted nothing to do with the internet. So anytime she needed something, she would just use my dad's.
Oh, early internet days.
Even now, she doesn't want to use the internet. She'll just sign up my sister or me up for something. And then we get all the spam for the stores that she likes to shop at because she just can't be bothered using the internet. So I think maybe that feeds into it.
I was going to say about Tulpas, I haven't heard about that phenomenon in any other things, but then again, I haven't really watched other like supernatural shows. But I think there is another supernatural show that talked about Tulpas.
There was the show Supernatural. In season 1 of Supernatural, they had this Hell House episode where they think that there's a tulpa inside of a haunted house. And it started out as a fake story about why a house was haunted, but so many people believed in the fake story that it became a real haunting. So their only solution to stop the haunting was to burn down the house.
I don't remember that episode.
Yeah, it did work because the house was the myth itself. So once the house was burned down, the myth died with it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's good that you brought that up because I remember, or it's good that you brought up tulpas in general. I remember when this episode was up on So Weird TV, the YouTube channel that had all the episodes up, there were like hundreds of comments on this episode from people who claimed that they had tulpas and they did not appreciate the way this show was representing them.
Really?
Yes.
That sounds so interesting.
It really was, but now you can't see the comments because all the videos have been taken down.
Wow.
But I looked it up on Wikipedia. Do you all remember when all those videos were taken down?
Because I remember I would show them on Tiny Chat.
Okay, the forum hasn't been around that long.
Yeah, it was around 2013.
Episodes have been taken off YouTube like in cycles, and then they would have to repost them.
Oh, okay. Well, I think like when they finally deleted them all, it was around 2013, 2014.
Okay, because I thought it was a little later than 2008. The Wikipedia page says that there was like an emergence of tulpa in popular culture around 2009 from a discussion on 4chan, and it also gained popularity through the emergence of My Little Pony.
What?
So I'm wondering if all the comments I saw were from My Little Pony fans.
That sounds... Wow.
Yeah, if you want to, it's a little colorful, so if you want to hear more about it, I'd go to the Wikipedia Tulpa page.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe in the My Little Pony episode, they weren't evil.
Well, it's, I guess I should have been more specific. It's My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, so it's not just My Little Pony.
Well, isn't that the show, though? Like the full name of the show?
Yeah.
That's the new revival of the show.
But it's still, isn't it meant for kids?
Oh,
the storylines are, I guess, not that simple. I mean, it has a big fan base, I'm guessing, for a reason. But
is that why they're brewing?
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, so if you want to hear more about it, go on Wikipedia. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah. And more weird than So Weird. So getting back to the TV show, So Weird, and our episode Tulpa, which there are no magical ponies, thank God. Do we have anything else to say?
I guess if I were to rate it now, I enjoyed it now more than I have seen it in the past. But I don't know, maybe because there's a thunderstorm and it was dark and gloomy and I was more into it. But I guess I would rate it a 7 out of 10. That's what I would give it. Or 6. 6.
Emily?
Oh, I don't do ratings. You know that, Kat.
She doesn't do the
Except for
ratings.
last episode. Last episode, I gave a rating. I really liked this episode. I appreciate it, particularly for the way it develops Jack and Fee's relationship and continues the development that carries throughout season 1. And I like, I guess it was a little spooky. I like the shot of like the tennis shoes tying together and the scene at the end, as you said. So it's an episode that brings back some nice memories, I guess, of watching it.
Yeah, I think I would give it like a 7.5. And it gets that extra 0.5 for me for the terror factor because I can still vividly remember the nightmare I had of this episode where I was dragged by swing set chains into the ocean. So it gets fear points for that.
Oh
Plus,
God.
I love the Jack and Fee relationship. And I was always really impressed by the finger painting in the opening of Fee's monologue because as a child, I always wanted to finger paint, but I never had any finger paints. So I love seeing that opening.
Yeah, I like that opening too.
I like it too, but it actually reminds me of an episode of Doctor Who called, oh gosh, I can't even remember what it's called, but it's really bad. If you've seen the episode, you know what I'm talking about. And it's actually similar to this one because the kids' drawings come to life. So I used to like the opening, but now it just brings back bad Doctor Who memories.
Oh. All right. So we got some comments on the Rebecca episode that we did last time, so I'll go ahead and read those. We got one from Laura Small. She said, I remember this episode when I first watched. I was hoping for a happy ending and I felt cold after it ended. And I must have been a heartless 13-year-old because I was annoyed with Molly through the episode. Time passed and now I love this episode. It's scary how relatable it is because I too had a close friend that left suddenly. Just one day she stopped responding to my texts and my Facebook posts. 4 years later and I still don't know what happened and I feel like contacting her at this point would be harassing her. I'm kind of glad we never got the happy ending between Molly and Rebecca in season 3. It just would have cheapened the end of this episode. It would have been a bit invalidating for me. But great episode. I agree on the 10 out of 10 rating.
Yeah.
That was a really good comment. I never thought about it cheapening a potential Molly-Rebecca reunion, cheapening this episode. So that's a really good point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've thought about that, and I agree. Like, just bringing her back, I don't know. This episode was so good on its own.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, I didn't realize that they were actually planning on maybe bringing her back. I thought it was just that she was going to talk to Jack and not see Molly. But you're right. There was something in one of the articles or the questionnaires about that. And I agree. I would not have liked her to reunite with Molly, unfortunately. Sadly.
That's why I also don't like in Avatar when Molly, like, knows about the emails from Rebecca.
Yeah.
But her memory gets wiped, so I guess she still doesn't remember. So our other comment is from Geth117. Or Jeth. I don't know why, but this episode always scared me as a kid for some weird reason. Even today, it kind of freaks me out and also makes me sad a bit too, especially at the end. But I guess at the same time, this is the episode that's my favorite and the one I always remember.
Aw.
Oh, that's interesting. There is something kind of scary about it. I think that Rebecca's parents are scary. Like when she turns around and he like growls, Rebecca. That always kind of freaks me out. So I understand.
Yeah, but me personally, I've never been scared of it.
Me neither.
And we also got another comment on Tumblr from the URL Very Own Personal Blog. I just watched the podcast episode of Rebecca. I always thought Rebecca's parents allowed her to see Molly, just look at her one last time before they drove out of town. Now I think Rebecca snuck away from her parents with the intention to see Molly, but changed her mind because Molly said everything she needed to say to Rebecca in the song. I can't wait until you guys do Lost. That's my fave. It's not their best, to be honest, but I can connect to it on a personal level.
Oh, that's just like a punch in the gut to hear that the song Rebecca was everything that Molly needed to say to her.
Mm-hmm.
That's gotta hurt for Rebecca.
Yeah, but Rebecca's heard the song already, though. But
yeah, but
maybe
still,
seeing
in
it
person.
Yeah, in person's way different impact.
Yeah.
Which is something we didn't talk about last episode, is how different the version on the album sounds from the live version at the end. It's so much more powerful at the end of the episode.
So Laura also commented, she asked, is it possible that they aren't releasing the DVDs because of the Mackenzie Phillips controversy and Disney doesn't want to associate with her? Though I think she was in some DCOMs, Disney Channel original movies.
Yeah, that's not true. Because during the celebration for 100 DCOMs, they put Double Teamed up there. And Double Team starred Mackenzie Phillips in it too.
Yeah, and currently right now she has a voice acting role in a new Disney XD show called Milo Murphy's Law. So, yeah, definitely not true.
Yeah, but
Disney doesn't want to release DVDs because they just don't want to.
Because they're mean. And John from the Watch Disney Care team, your title is a lie. You do not care about my request for So Weird.
I want Laura to know that, that's been something that's been brought up in the fandom in the past. So, but now we know that's just can't be true because Disney has hired Mackenzie Phillips again. Mm-hmm. So, not a bad idea at all, or not a totally invalid thought. I guess we could say, since we were talking about the DVDs and all that unfortunately, Freeform has stopped their That's So Throwback block. So now the chances of So Weird being shown on television again anytime soon are pretty much zero.
Especially now that it's October, and once again, Disney Channel has neglected to include So Weird in its Monstober lineup.
Mm-hmm.
What about that app that you had talked about, the Watch Disney app thing?
The Watch Disney app, they've actually gotten rid of their replay section. So they no longer show any of the older shows. Yeah,
and in their Monstober section, they don't have the Halloween episodes for old shows either. And I checked Freeform's Watch app too, and there's nothing on there.
So once again, Disney, you disappoint me.
I mean, that's not to say they won't bring up some type of thing to play old shows. But I don't know, I can't see them creating a new channel for old shows. I think Nickelodeon did that.
Well, Nickelodeon half did that when they took Nick Gas and they made it Teen Nick, and they created the 90s Are All That block, so that starts at like 10 p.m. and it runs to like 4 o'clock in the morning where they show old shows.
Yeah, I'd be grateful for that.
Yeah. Like Disney Channel used to do that in the days of Zoog Disney when So Weird was on air. At nighttime, they would have this vintage Disney block where they would show stuff from like the 50s. And much earlier material for like the grown-ups to watch after the kids went to bed.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be cool if they brought that back, only for Zoog Disney and that era. Like So Weird, Jet Jackson, The Jersey.
I just don't understand why they won't at least release the episodes on iTunes for these old shows. How much does it cost them to do that?
Like, I feel like they would earn money.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah. So I understand why they don't want to release DVDs for it. And I don't think they ever will, unfortunately, at this point. But iTunes, just do it. I mean, It can't cost that much at all.
Nope.
And then we get off your backs.
I had also sent them an email like a few months ago. Yeah, basically it was just me asking them to release it in any format, and then they're like, "Oh, we're interested in the idea of a re-release for the show, and we'll let our team know."
Yeah, that's the same standard reply. I've been sending them emails for 10 years now. And still, even when I thought I reached out to an actual human being, John from the Watch Disney Care team, he said he understood my request. He said that they appreciated it. And there is still no So Weird on the Watch Disney app. John from the Watch Disney Care team, your title is a lie.
But it's interesting, Kathy, that they told you that it was they'd consider it for re-release when it has never been released in any format.
Yeah, that's why.
It's just an automatic response.
Boo. Okay, so another comment from Laura on our episode 5 one for Escape. She said, "This was the first episode I watched. I missed the first few episodes on its first airing because I was never home. I watched it with my sister. She was annoyed, though the show was a dumb teen show, until the girl walked through Fee. Then she'd also catch the episodes. As for season 3, I didn't like it, but I liked Annie as a character. If they had gone with the original plan for season 3, I wouldn't have minded if she joined the cast and became a friend to Fee. Fee was always hanging out with the guys, and it would have been nice for her to have another girl around. This may or may not have to do with the fact that I ship Annie and Fee, even though they were only one episode together. Also changed that Panther story so it's not so awkward."
That's a really interesting take that I have never thought of before.
Yeah, I've never thought of Annie being a part of the season 3 plot.
Yeah.
I mean, mainly because she wasn't originally, but I never thought of her joining it.
Well, I kind of did in that fan fiction that I mentioned earlier that I wrote when I was 13. I kind of made it a mashup of the original season 3 and the season 3 that we got. But when I mentioned Annie, it was like in an alternate universe that Fiona was trapped in like a universe where she gave up. And I basically made the season 3 that we got an alternate reality.
It sounds like you made it hell. I mean,
it kind of was like Rikiryu transported there as some sort of nefarious plots. I need to go look at that story again. It's probably horrible because I wrote it when I was 13. But one day I would love to be able to finish it and make it better.
I don't know. I think that if they rebooted the show, there probably would be a lot of fans that would want Annie to be part of it.
Yeah.
But to me, she just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I've been looking to see if anyone's been writing So Weird articles this month. I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of websites talking about Halloween shows yet.
And I feel like Halloween is getting less and less popular each year.
What?
Like, every year there are less kids trick-or-treating in my neighborhood.
Oh. At least on the internet, it's still a big thing. That I see. But yeah, that's true. I mean, it's getting more dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay, especially with the clowns.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. Especially because I want to give out candy this year, and I'm thinking if a tall clown were to knock on my door, would I answer it?
When a clown knocks.
Okay, so she commented on our Angel episode. She said, "It took me a while to remember this episode. It wasn't until you mentioned the sleep before the big needle line that I finally remembered it. It was very sweet, and yeah, it did remind me of Touched by an Angel. My mom used to make me watch that show. I was also raised Catholic. As far as bone marrow transplants, my mom had a cousin who had leukemia. He got a bone marrow transplant but did not survive the surgery. I'm not exactly sure what happened. I know he was in the late stages and nearly died before the transplant. I think his body rejected it, and he was already very sick and weak. So yeah, the transplant doesn't always work."
Oh, that's a sad story. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, I guess it's just one of those where it might help or it might not.
Yeah. I think that just shows that So Weird really impacts people on a deep personal level. that it's so relatable, and there's so many moments like that people can find a connection with.
Yeah, they always touch on issues that were not problematic or controversial, but issues that other shows wouldn't talk about.
Yeah. Deep.
Okay, yeah, so I think those are most of the comments, and thanks, Laura, for all the comments on all our podcast episodes. I'm glad you've been listening to them and hopefully enjoying them.
Thank you.
So, is that it?
I guess so.
All right, so this wraps up our discussion on Tulpa. Thank you all for listening. If you have any comments about the episode, we would love to hear them. And everybody, keep emailing Disney Channel to bug them about releasing So Weird. And keep the faith. I'm Kat.
I'm Kathy.
And I'm Emily.
Bye.